Shalom. My name is Yehoshua, and this is being made from Jerusalem. My purpose is to provide information. I'm a didactic scientist and American citizen, and I live here for 22 years. Okay, my purpose in making this video is to first, I respect people who undergo the kinds of significant life changes that we see in this particular Muslim cleric who converted to Christianity. So maybe there's going to be yet again another conversion. I have something to say that's, the purpose of this video is informational. Okay, we're not going to talk about Judaism. We're going to talk about the God of the cosmos, the God of Allah, the Christian God. It's all one God. Okay, we all know that. Having said that, we're not going to discuss politics either. I'm going to say just one thing. There has been an event. As a didactic science, I observed an event that began 18 years ago, and I followed it. And I followed it, and the evidence has more and more gained very significant credence, and that is the collapse of the local reality. And the collapse of the local reality means, it was confirmed on 9/11, which is the end of man and mankind's exile. Now that's the definition for religious people, whether Muslim or Christian or Jew. And the end of man and mankind's exile means the redemption of man and mankind. Okay, so if the meta-narrative, which is the meaning of 9/11, is the collapse of the local reality that ended man's exile and mankind's, the question is, what does it mean? What does it mean to me, my family, my community, my nation? So I don't want anybody to get angry at me. I'm the mailman. Don't get angry at the mailman. Here's what the meaning is. There are four levels: the psychosocial, the behavioral, the cognitive, and the spiritual. And the psychosocial level means the collapse of both East and West systems. Communism collapsed in the Soviet Union on December 25th, 1991, and the next year in 1992 it collapsed in Yugoslavia. It collapsed, the local reality collapsed in Israel with the murder of Rabin in November 5th, 1995. And what's the local reality in Israel that collapsed? It's Zionism. It collapsed in America on 9/11. Its local reality was capitalism. It collapsed in Iraq on March 17th, 2003, in Lebanon, and it's going around the world, folks. It's irreversible. Okay, so the collapse of the local reality means the end of man and mankind's exile. So the first level, the psychosocial level, that end of man and mankind's exile means the collapse of both East and West systems. The second level, on the behavioral level, it means also the collapse of the two major monotheistic religions, including Judaism. And so the question is, what replaces the East and West system if both collapse? And the answer is they converge into the middle, and what replaces both is Humanomics in general, and its central organizing principle, receiving to give. What is receiving to give? Receiving the authentic you, to give the authentic you. From who? From the God of the cosmos. To give the authentic you. To who? To the real authentic you. To your children, to your family, your community, your nation. And what has ended in exile was giving to receive. I give, I get. You know, I give my prayers, I get blessings. Okay, I give my work, I get my pay. That's finished. That anthropologic, psychologic, sociologic model of man and mankind's exile of his mind is finished. Collapsed local reality is finished. Now on the level of the behavior level, the two major monotheistic religions are imploding, and on the cognitive level, the two major largest economies in the world, America and Japan. Why? Both are exceedingly vulnerable to the cost of energy, $126 a barrel going to $200. They're not viable. They don't have a least cost method anymore, and all manufacturing has to be shipped offshore. Having said that, and then there has to be a major restructuring of these economies. Now on the psychosocial level is the most important of all. It means the collapse of the created duality of man and mankind's mind of exile And that model was giving to receive. That is finished. It's collapsed. And what's left is the local reality has to be deconstructed. We have to deprogram the mind. We have to ascend to inhabit the quantum reality. For the secular, it means the end of the pre-modern and modern era. To ascend, to inhabit the post-modern era. For the religious, it means the collapse of the Logos. It means the end of man and man's exile. To ascend, to inhabit the quantum reality, which is redemption, and its central organizing principles receive it to give. This is where we are, and this is what the meta-narrative, the meaning of 9/11. It applies to a sea change of events for man and mankind that will take a century for us to fully absorb, to comprehend. That's where we are. That is what is. And so the question is, what comes after the two major monotheistic frameworks? Well, it's very simple. We converge into humanomics in general, and globally with the East-West model, and we converge to the center, both East-West constructs into receive and to give. And we end giving to receive, and all of the particularities and articulations undergo fundamental transformations. And why? Because the truth is the information that never changes, parenthetically in finality, changing in intentionality. Quote unquote. I'll say it again. The ethic, the first principle of logic, that is the ethic of humanomics, general model of man and mankind's ascent to inhabit the quantum reality, is truth. Quote, the truth, quote unquote, the truth is the information that never changes, parenthetically in finality, close parens, changing, parenthetically in intentionality, end quote. That's where we are, folks, and what that means is simple. It presents to man and mankind, whether Muslim, Christian, Jew, all around the world, it presents very, very, it's paradoxical. It presents a paradox that man immediately and naturally perceives to be a dilemma. He has to choose the lesser of two evils to continue to cling to his ground zero, because the God of the cosmos has brought the end of man and mankind's exile. Well, folks, that's not an option. And I don't say that sarcastically, I say it most humbly before the God of the cosmos. And therefore the question is, what do we do? Well, the paradox that the end of man and mankind's exile brings a paradox, and that paradox that is perceived as a dilemma is a delusion and a clinging to ground zero. Because the end of man and mankind's exile now has imposed and imposes in the particularity in every individual, on the individual, family, communal, national level, cultural level, to all mankind. The dichotomy of resolving their identity and determining who they are in authenticity, who the real person is. And the dichotomy compels a separation from the personality and the manifestation of the person who was previously. So we can't get angry. We have to be moderate and reasonable, and we will ascend. This is a sustainable human development enterprise for man and mankind. It's not an option. It's what we all have to do, and this is the result of 9/11. That was the meta-narrative. It has brought the end of man and mankind's exile and all of these. This is the meaning of it, and that's the psycholinguistic level, where it refers to the individual. And the analog is as follows. After the collapse of the local reality, we had chaos, complexity, convergence, and comprehension. Well, right now we're between complexity and convergence before we get to comprehension. And in exile, there was anger, denial, negotiation, acceptance, which now yields in redemption and the ascent to the quantum reality, to awakening, atonement, restoration, and healing. And in Kabel B'Shvilatet, that's the Hebrew for, I'll say it in English, receiving to give, receiving the authentic you to give the authentic you to you, your children, family, community, nation, all mankind. I'm Yehoshua Yaakov. I'm a didactic scientist. My purpose in making this is not to preach religion or convert anybody, but to say this is the reality. This is where we are in the history of man and mankind. And so I thank you for listening. I'm Yehoshua Yaakov from Jerusalem, and I wish you the blessing of Kabel B'Shvilatet, which is receiving to give. Thank you for listening. Shalom.